I'm Jamie Anderson, and in this video I'm going to talk about maintenance of your instrument. This holds true for anything that's wood with strings like guitar, ukulele, mandolin, dulcimer, all those kinds of instruments. I'm going to talk about polishing an instrument, humidifying it, and some general tips for care. First, let's talk about polishing an instrument. Never, ever, ever, ever use spray furniture polish on your instrument. That stuff will build up, it will gunk your instruments, and sometimes it can damage it. Use a polish that you find at a music store. You can order it online too, of course. This is polish that's made by Smith, but there's a lot of really great brands out there. Spray it on your instrument. Get a nice dry cloth. Rub it in the direction of the grain. And voila, you will take off the fingerprints and moisturize the finish a little bit. Another thing that you can do is get a soft cloth, put a little bit of water on it, make it barely damp. I want to emphasize that, barely damp. And that's also a good way to wipe fingerprints and dust off your guitar. I sometimes will put a light oil on the bridge and the top of my fretboard because those tend to dry out a little faster. Again, only use oil that is specifically for that. Do not use heavy furniture oil. That is not a good idea. These tips I'm giving you are for everyday instruments. This is not for expensive instruments, for vintage instruments, and for that you should talk to a collector or a luthier because those take special care. It's like the difference between taking care of a Ford pickup and a high maintenance sports car like I've ever owned either. But anyway, just an example there. So let's talk about humidifiers. Humidifiers are very important if you live in a dry climate or if you live in a really cold climate where a lot of heat is used indoors. And I know whereof I speak because I lived for many years in Arizona, which is a desert, most of it. And now I live in Canada, and it's Canada. We have winter. So here's a few ways that you can humidify your instrument. One of them is a disc. I don't know if you can see that. Here, I'll put it against my shirt so you can see it. All right. This particular one is made by Oasis, but there's a lot of different brands. It has a little screw top on the top. You put water in it, screw it back on. Make sure there's no excess water around it, and then stick it in the sound hole. Voila. It works best if it's in a case. So be sure to check it once in a while because these things can dry out. Another humidifier that you can use is the disc type. This one also has a sponge on the inside. You water it, squeeze it out, wipe off the excess water, stick it in the sound hole, and again, this works best when it's in a case. Another way to humidify your instrument, get this. Get a sponge, cut it to about a credit card size, wet it, wring it out really well, put it in a plastic bag, about the size of bag you'd use for a sandwich. Seal the top, but poke a few holes in it. Then stick the bag inside your instrument so that the sponge is sort of hanging free, but nothing wet is touching the wood. This may seem like a crazy way to humidify an instrument, but that's what I did for years, and it works great. You can also use a room humidifier, just like the kind you'd buy at a regular store. And sometimes I have those running all the time when I teach in the winter because it's so dry once you turn on the furnace. Speaking of the furnace, never, ever, ever put your instrument near a fireplace or on top of a furnace vent. That will dry out the wood. And likewise, do not store your instrument in an attic because heat rises and attics are very dry. Likewise, don't store your instrument in a basement. Basements are generally very damp, and the dampness can also damage an instrument. When you're bringing an instrument in from a very cold day into a warm building, leave it in the case for a little while. Let it slowly acclimate and then pull it out. I learned this lesson the hard way. I had a gig in Colorado and I brought my mandolin in. It was the winter. I brought my mandolin in, I sat down next to a fireplace, took it right out of the case, and immediately this spider web of cracks went across my whole instrument. I'm really fortunate it didn't damage it structurally, which could have happened, but it didn't look so great. So be careful about that. People often ask me what is too cold and what is too hot for an instrument, and that's another thing you need to be careful about. This guitar has been in, oh gosh, what was it? 30 below Fahrenheit in the back of a pickup truck, and it was fine because what I did when I took it inside to a warm building, I let it stay in the case for a long time before I pulled it out, and it was fine. Really hot weather is a different animal though. Don't put your instrument in a trunk on a warm day because it's always warmer in the trunk and that heat can be very bad. In fact, at certain temperatures, a hot heat can melt the glue that holds your instrument together, and you'll open it up and you'll just have, have a series of parts looking at you. So those are some things to keep in mind. Make sure you're using polish that's specifically for your instrument or a very damp cloth. Make sure you humidify your instrument however you choose to do it. And do not store your instrument in an attic or a basement, and be careful when you bring it in and out of weather. So I teach via Skype. If you want information about that, go to jamieanderson.com, and there is a page where you can contact me. I also have lots and lots of free lesson videos. If you're not already a subscriber, you can find me at YouTube by searching Jamie Anderson Music. If you don't add the music, then you get that snowboarder, also named Jamie Anderson, and I don't think she even plays an instrument, so there you go. I would love to hear from you. If you have suggestions for future lesson videos or information you want to know, post it in the comments below, and maybe it'll be in a future video. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.